Isn't that perfect?
Oh, that's perfect.
Dennis, happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, man. Well, yes, to you too. Will you be my Valentine?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, why not? Big news everywhere, man.
Was there a
Big
was there
news
a bowl?
everywhere. Politics, cinema, football. Oh my God. Well, I was mildly interested. God's honest truth. After the Lions didn't make it, I've watched. I wanted Kansas City to win. My brother lives there. I say, and I've said to you, they're my third favorite team, etc. But it was funny how after the Lions lost that I soured on that third place a little bit. I never yelled out. I never cheered. I was happy they won.
Right.
My brother's ecstatic. Just crazy. A couple of my brothers are. Joe, my older brother, loves them too. But I got to tell you, they've already selected the top 5 best bets for Super Bowl 2025. And it's the same lineup. 49ers, Baltimore Ravens, fucking Chiefs, of course, Buffalo Bills, and the Detroit Lions. They're in every top 5 poll that I've seen, and I've seen 2 of them.
That's more than I have. Interesting.
So there's that. That's a good start, So now I'm going to start watching basketball.
It's apparently only the second time the Super Bowl has ever gone into overtime, or something like that. And
yes, and there's a funny story about this. And also, a point in overtime is that it's the first time that the win of a Super Bowl was a result of a pass, which is a funny stat because what it should say is, but there's only been one other overtime Super Bowl. So you can break a lot of records if there's only one.
It's the first time that the touchdown was made with an even number. Hey.
Did you watch the game?
Started at 1 a.m., Dennis. I'm not going to...
Oh, okay. So the answer is no. But anyway, make a long story short, it ended up in overtime, as we've already stated. And during that overtime, the announcer said there's been a rule change as a result of the way that the Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills semifinal game went, where the old rules were cried out as being so unfair that they've changed the rules. And the old rule was you flip a coin, whoever gets the ball come on the coin toss, and if they score a touchdown, they win. Game's over. If they score a field goal, the other team gets to play, and if they score a field goal, it continues. But if they score a touchdown, they win. Well, it's terribly unfair because then it's based, in one sense, on a coin toss rather than the men on the field.
How good your offense is. Or defense. I don't know. Why is that unfair?
No. We've already had this conversation. It's both defense and offense, but that's not the point. In the variable that decides the game is something as stupid as
because
a coin
who has
toss.
the ball is the most important thing.
That's right. You get the ball first, and if you got a good offense, you get right. So, in that sense, if you get the ball first, your offense has to be better than their defense, et cetera, et cetera. But the coin toss was stupid. They threw it out. So the new rule started, and the game went, and new rule is that both teams get a chance to score. Both teams get the ball. So they started the clock, which was, I believe, 15 minutes, and they got the ball going, and the Chiefs, who had the ball first, which was their choice, because there was a coin toss involved, and it was who gets to decide whether you get the first ball or give the first ball. Now that the field is more balanced, where each team gets the ball, This becomes a different consideration altogether. Unlike the first time. The first time, that was it. If you were unlucky and didn't get the coin toss, you very likely would, you played your last football. Right? And so they do that, and the 49ers, in a controversial call, say, we want the ball
Who won
first.
their coin toss? They did. 49.
Chiefs.
Wait,
Now,
but
they
if
want
didn't
the
win
ball
coin toss-
first. There's two
No.
parts of this.
The 40.
They did win the
Okay,
coin toss.
that's what I just
49ers won the coin toss. And they said, strangely, we want the ball first. Well, number one, and I want to tell you what happens, but number one, why would you get the ball first? The new rule, what you want to do is you want to see what your opponent does. Because if your opponent ends up scoring
You want to know how much
a
risk to
touchdown
take.
on their possession, listen, yes, exactly. That means that when you score your touchdown, you might decide to go for two, which you otherwise would never do if you got the ball first. Similar, it's 4th and 8. You're at your 30-yard line. Are you going to go for it or kick the... Well, if the
Then you
other
have
team
to-
scored a touchdown, you have no choice. Therefore, the power position is the kicking team. And the 49ers could be called the biggest mistake in Super Bowl history, or more likely, the biggest mistake in overtime
Indeed.
Super Bowl history. Indeed.
I know.
Where records were broken. And so that's the first issue. But then what happens is this, is that the 49ers who've got the ball, they don't make their touchdown. They don't get the touchdown. Their thinking was, well, we're going to control this game. We're going to force them to have to go for a touchdown or lose, and that's what we're going to do. For all I knew, if they got a touchdown, they might have went for two. So they could not lose the game if they successfully went for two. We don't know what they did because they were stopped.
Well, what if they're
Defense
still
was
tied?
better
What if
than
one
offense? They
team
kicked
makes
the
a
field
touchdown
goal.
and gets the extra point, and the other team does the same? They switch again?
Well, that's exactly the controversy, and I will
It should be
get
like
to that.
it should be
very
like
quickly.
European football, where soccer, where you go to penalty field goals. That'd be cool.
Well, they don't do that, but there is a story to this. And so what happens next is that the Chiefs get the ball, and the Chiefs are third down long. They're having a hard time getting up the field, but they get up the field, but they're running out the clock. The clock is ticking. They finally get to 3 seconds. 3 seconds left on the clock. They throw a touchdown pass, beating them 7-3, game over. What nobody knew, what many people did not know, including many players on the 49ers team, did not know, and I did not know, that if it went to 0 on the clock and they were still playing, they just started the time over again, because each team has a chance to have
the
the
clock
ball.
means nothing?
It's either going to end in... The clock means it's the end of the first quarter of overtime.
How many quarters of overtime are there? 4?
Well, I think that there might be... Well, that's a strange guess, but yeah. So I didn't know that, and I thought, oh my God, the Chiefs, they're going to do it. 3 seconds left. Oh, what a play. Everybody runs to the left because they think it's a quarterback sneak to the left, but no, it's not. He's going to the right. There's a free man on the right. He's 3 yards, 3-yard pass. Kansas City touchdown. Kansas City wins their third bowl. 2 in a row. It hasn't happened for 19 years. Yeah.
Exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the story of the rules change and no one knows it. Rules change, but do we know it? You don't know the rules and you might blow it. You better understand, because you just can't grow it when you're up against it.
I hear you, man. That's tough. You think?
Made me thirsty. That's a long story.
Huh.
That's the sports
Okay,
desk.
Thank you, sports ball man,
Sports desk editor.
editor in chief. There you go.
Editor in chief.
Editor
Chief
in Kansas
editorial
City
writer. So, are you ready for my editorial?
All right.
It's
now I'm ready.
entitled, just
Okay.
hear the title, and then you decide.
Okay.
Hear the title, then you decide. Why the Lions should have beat the 49ers and been in the Super Bowl and then beat the Chiefs. An editorial by Dennis Stanley Joseph Schrum.
No, that's fine.
It's
We don't
only, there's a limit. There's a limit, like
Yeah.
a lot of editorials. As you well know, the limit here is 13 pages. And I get it done in 12.
Well done. Okay.
Let me begin. The Lions are a franchise that began 66 years ago.
What?
Whoops,
Sorry.
you're asleep already.
What?
Quicker than
The
I
Lions
thought.
are a franchise. The Lions are named after a cat. Cool. I'm sorry.
Lions. Is that just a random
No,
thought?
I'm
or-
going nowhere with that. Speaking of cats, I've determined that for
Well, here we go. Now we're
I've
rolling.
determined that I have on nights when it's not raining, I have to lock my cat outside on the balcony for our recording because otherwise he's like up on my desk and like touching shit.
Yeah, I
and,
remember those times.
But what's funny is when I'm later editing, I can hear the row row row. No, I
Through
can
the
hear,
window?
like it's being picked up by my mic, and then later when I'm editing and the cat's sitting next to me, I can hear his previous self meowing at me through the door. No,
you get rid of
I
it?
can't. I'm not that technically savvy.
You can't like isolate John's voice.
I can't.
Did you see that? Did you see that? That video, the song. What is it called?
Are you
Video of the song.
referring to the Beatles?
The Beatles. Yeah, they're two dead post Beatles fuckers.
Well, see, that's not my cat. That's your.
AI.
On your side. Yes.
That's a baby, not a cat.
Well, you should put it outdoors and close the door. That's what I do.
Nick, set that child outside. It's like 29
Yeah.
degrees out. Oh, so I went fishing. I've got a fishing report.
Okay.
That's part of sports.
The fishing report.
I don't know if-
Let's see. I watched a movie over the weekend that I have a thought about. You don't have Netflix, so you've probably not seen the movie Bird Box. It was one of the original Netflix original movies. It's this movie. It's Sandra Bullock. We've discussed it before. Sandra Bullock, and it's this horror story where something is roaming around outside, and if you look at it directly, then you kill yourself. You commit suicide. And so they figure out.
You mean if you go
Yes,
eyeball to
then,
eyeball
then
with the
it
beast?
makes it's like so beautiful to you that you kill yourself or whatever. And so it's sort of like this. It's almost borderline pandemic-y sort of scenario where there's this thing that is out there that makes you want to stay inside, but sometimes you have to go outside, and they figure out to go around with blindfolds on and just figure out how to the task is can you go out from your safe place to get to the local grocery store where everyone is dead there and get stuff without catching a glimpse of whatever that thing is. If
Or
you
you
catch
can't
a
even
glimpse of
see
it,
it.
then you kill yourself. It doesn't kill you. Yeah. So
A glimpse. How does she figure that out? I imagine she's the
protagonist. She's the protagonist, but
victim.
they find it out because there's just this one day where everyone starts killing themselves, and the people that survive have noticed that that people look at something
All you
and
got
then
to do
commit
is
suicide.
see it.
And so they they very quickly learn to cover their eyes.
Did they ever show
That's
you
the
the
extra
thing?
scary part of it. It's not
It's
fast.
so fast.
It's
Is it
it's
like
sort
so
of
fast?
like it sort of casts a nebulous shadow you can sort of see, and like the leaves move and stuff, and it's just sort of this entity, ghosty thing, alien or whatever. It doesn't.
And you liked it. You're not a big fan of ghosts.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not. But this particular the Bird Box movie that came out like 5 or 6 years ago was good. I check out when they show me a monster, but not seeing the monster makes it more intriguing for me. And
Even an alien?
as long as I don't see it, yeah.
Does that include aliens?
A lot of sure. I mean,
It does?
depends on what kind of.
When you
Depends
see
on what
the
kind of alien.
if the alien's a monster, then it does. If the alien's not a monster.
Yeah, but I prefer scary things that aren't seen, like, which is
Yeah, right. Things that aren't seen are scarier
Right.
than things that are seen. Nothing can compare
right,
to
exactly. And
imagination.
like that's what was so terrifying about COVID was there's this thing at the early days of COVID where there's this thing out there that's killing people and you can't see it. You don't know who has it or what surface it's on or whatever. But anyway, I watched this Bird Box movie by myself when it first came out, like 8 years ago or whatever. And then I watched it again last year with my kids, and it was my eldest thought it was cool, and my youngest survived it, but was a little too freaked out. He was a little too young, I think, to see it. So bad parenting on me.
How old?
He was
8?
9. And
Yeah.
so anyway, but the reason that we watched it last year was because Netflix was promoting the sequel. And I saw, the sequel is out. Hey, I should show my kids the first one.
With Sandra Bullock?
No, the first one had Sandra Bullock, and then the sequel is set in Barcelona. And I thought, huh?
Oh, no kidding.
Interesting, because because the whole concept
go there.
of yes,
Barcelona?
Barcelona.
Barcelona.
The whole concept of the
Am I saying that right?
of the
Barcelona.
phenomena was that it was global,
Barcelona.
right? And so this one,
Right, but Sandra Bullock's
it's
not in it.
completely other people. It's the same sort of concept, but so anyway,
It's happening again.
In its theory, it was global at the time, and this is just a different story during the event. Is my understanding. But so I watched it with my eldest. My youngest was like, nope. And so it was like mostly in Spanish. There was an English woman in it, but and there was a German child. But it was the same. They tried to do the same sort of thing, but boy, it really just fell so flat. It wasn't any good at all. They tried. They tried to add extra, like in the first one when whatever the ghosty thing was nearby, there was sort of like a shadow cast on stuff. And this time when the ghosty thing was nearby, they made like debris sort of like float, like anti-gravity off the ground, which is creepy in its own way, but I don't know. They just failed to nail the landing. So anyway, and the whole point of
it's trading something that's familiar to something that's unfamiliar, so it's probably not as effective. We've all had a chill when a shadow has passed over it,
Yes.
and we don't know why. We've never had a chill because shit is fucking anti-gravity.
That's an excellent point.
you're more, you let your imagination.
Right, and we have that, innate thing where if you see a bush move, then you're the people that thought, that's probably nothing, or the people that thought, oh crap, that's probably a lion. One of us survived.
Well, I'm reading this book that I got for Christmas, and there's this scene in the book where a woman who is waiting in line in downtown Manhattan in front of a big building, a big skyscraper, has a shadow pass over her, and it passes over the entire line of people who look up and see that what caused the shadow was a new skyscraper being built on the other side of the one they were waiting in line for to get in, and they were building it, and the metal beams were being swung by a giant crane that is using a 2-inch thick, as thick as your wrist, braided wire, right, to swing it from the truck that it sits, the railroad car that it sits, up and over to the top. But the thing is that it was so far away that while the sun was blotted momentarily and caused a shadow, it was far enough away where when you looked up, you couldn't see the wire that was holding it. So it looked instead like a beam floating in air. And later in the story, which is unusual because the story is actually 3 kind of smaller books within a book, and each book tells a story about the same time frame. So this scene is kind of repeated, but this time there are men seated on the beam. So it's particularly jarring. A floating beam, right. To look and see what appears to be a floating beam with men on it. But this whole point of the shadow is scary. I have, in numerous occasions, felt freaky and scared because I'm doing something, usually bending down doing something, when a shadow goes over me, and along with that shadow going over me is a chill. And I look around to wonder if somebody's behind me, which could cast a shadow over you. And it's usually, when I'm bending over, it might be like to, bury a body or dig up a treasure I have. Typical Dennis activities. Something like that, where I'm already on edge. Any Thursday, just, probably on a Thursday. That's when I go out and kill people. In the morning, right after my coffee, before I eat. That's when my diabetes has got me in the biggest discomfortable rage. That seems healthy. So guess who was in the news? In the news for what he was described as diabetic hungry rages. Our own Brian Cox from Succession, who's reported by Sarah Snook to have gone into very frightening rampages while on the set. How in character? Of Succession. Corroborated by 2 other people, including Kieran Culkin and another woman who is in it, who said the same thing. And it was funny because the article said you never knew whether he was serious because it sounded so much like his character, or whether he was simply trying to get things intensified, right, or whatever. People didn't know, but he is so well respected, and these other actors are so much younger than him that he had this quality about him where they would be afraid to approach him. I mean, he was, because he's such a famous and wonderful actor with a career that just beats everybody else's career in just terms of stardom, longevity by 20 years. So he was held in, as you say, homage. Hummus. High homage. Yes. and they ate hummus during the break.
Isn't that weird?
With celery, carrot sticks.
Okay. Anyway, the reason it's called Bird Box is because they figured out that birds freak out when they see it. So as long as they carry a cardboard box with a couple of birds in it, then when it just gets near, the birds freak out. So it's sort of like an alarm.
That's an odd twist. It's an odd twist. You certainly kept me in secrecy about that for quite a long time. That's quite the twist to the story.
And in the sequel, there are no birds involved, which anyway, it was frustrating.
But the sequel wasn't named
it's called
Bird Box
Barcelona.
Anyway.
Bird Box Barcelona.
But there was no birds in a box?
Yes, I agree.
That's stupid.
Boo. So, and then I watched. There's before we get to True Detective. There's another series I've discovered that was recommended to me. Did you see the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith? It's
yes, and there's now a series with black actors.
One, yeah. The Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I think, is where Brad and Angelina met.
Yeah, right, where they hooked up, where Jolie seduced him, which is what her whole romantic life has been about.
Well,
stealing men from other women.
Okay, well, I won't.
She did it with Sling Blade Billy Joe
Bob.
Thornton,
Yeah,
as well.
I think so.
Billy Bob?
Billy Joe.
What'd I call him? Billy Joe? Billy Bob?
No.
Billy Ray. Bobby Ray. Bobby Jim. Billy Ray. Billy Ray
Bob Thornton. I was correct.
Billy Bob.
That's what I said. Billy Bob
Is that what
Thornton.
you said? I don't think so. Rewind that part. I want to hear.
What was the what?
Hey, we could throw the flag
Blade?
down, couldn't we? You and I.
Catchphrase was like whatever.
Sling Blade.
Remember, sling blade.
Sling Blade. I just carry this around with me in case I need it. I don't really care. I may not use it again, but I used it that time because he deserved it. He was certainly a child.
Excellent. Anyway, this new series is very, very good. It's on Amazon Prime Video. So I don't know if you have that, but
apparently I'm told I do, but I'm stupid enough not to know how to fucking access it.
But
so, next question.
I just remember the general gist of the movie, but this carries on with. There's some secret spy organization that pairs up a man and a woman together and puts them undercover, named Joe and Jane Smith, and gives them assignments, and they don't really know who they're working for or what the assignments are. And it follows this couple that were chosen and are meet each other for the first time, and they have a little package where they have all their IDs and some wedding rings, and then they're given their first assignment or whatever, and and the best part of the show is just the dialogue between these two strangers, sort of being forced to live together and meeting each other and trying to. I would watch the whole show if every episode they have to put in like some gunfight, car chase stuff.
Well, I've seen the advertisement of that when I'm watching one of my
Donald Glover is so good.
That must mean Danny Glover,
Danny's son. Yes,
Donald Glover. Yeah, Danny's
he's
son, right?
so good. Like he started off his career as a rapper, and he just crushes it at acting. So good. So anyway, that's a recommend for me. I'll put it in the show notes.
Well, so let's launch into, while we're on
Yes.
television land, the fifth
Penultimate.
episode. Penultimate episode, which had some absolutely unforeseen occurrences. Absolutely unforeseen. The spoiler alert. As one writer wrote it incorrectly, totally incorrectly, the murder of Hank Pryor. It was not, in fact, a murder. Not at all.
Yeah, that's the very ending.
It was a defendable
exactly.
homicide.
But man, it was a homicide literally after seeing him kill another person. So like that's extra defendable. His gun was loaded.
Well, I don't know if
You're right.
Petey
You're right.
saw
I
him
don't
kill
might not have because he came in
Bonus, but he certainly
Right.
saw him dead on the floor
And one guy
in a
with a
pool
gun,
of
yeah.
blood. So
he's pretty clever.
you didn't know to see it. But one of the things that I was reading referred to how mean. It was supposedly apparent how mean Hank was to his son, and mentioned that he hit him, and then I vaguely recalled that
Yes.
Hank did strike Pete when he found out that he
Right.
had stolen the file. But I didn't find the relationship between Hank and Pete to be that estranged, or that
No,
Hank
it wasn't
was
that abusive.
mean.
It was just he wasn't a great father, but he was there.
He was emotionally distant, is what this article
For sure.
said, which I can see that. But they also used this term meanness. And Pete, who was being interviewed, the actor's name is what is the actor's name? It isn't
Finn
Finney.
Bennett. Finn Bennett. Yes.
Finn Bennett. Finney. He's the one who used the term. His father had been so mean to him and emotionally distant, and I thought, you know what? If that's what your plan was, it didn't quite come across. They made Hank practically a likable figure, kind of a doofus. But when he sang when he sang that song and played that great fucking guitar, there was nothing but positive reaction to him. He wasn't a. I never thought he was a bad guy.
We felt
And
bad
I'm
for
not
him last
exactly
episode when he was picking up the rose petals.
Well, right.
being a doofus,
And so he was well. So, and if it's the intent of the writers that it's a surprise that he's so bad, that he's a murderer, but maybe that was the jolt, that because they had worked up your sympathy for him, and the characterization, the acting that John Hawke did was so great. John Hawke.
Well, he didn't want to.
Was so great.
I swear he has a line where he says, "I'm not a killer" or something, because all he did was he moved the body. But then
there were two references to two references that he wasn't a killer. One was in the car with the head of
the mine.
I believe she's the head of Sky Mine, who's who Danvers fucked her husband. You know that, right? Remember when she yelled at her, fuck you and your fucking this and your fucking weather event, fuck you. And the woman says, I'm out of here, I'm leaving you two alone. And she says, I'm sorry Bill was such a bad lay. That's Danvers.
Well, isn't her husband the teacher? That we met earlier? Because was it last episode where to find the cave, The professor, yeah.
The professor?
Is that a different lay?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
She was fucking him, too.
Yeah.
She had fucked him, too. That's when, what's her name? I want to say Constantine. I don't mean that.
Navarro, yeah.
Navarro said to her, "Is there anybody in this town you haven't fucked?" Because the woman greeted her with these slit eyes and just exuding hatred. It's such a small town. But so the episode itself gave me no doubts. I loved it. The article afterwards was weird to me because, according to Petey, they had or Finn Bennett, they intended us to know that the father was so mean, and yet I didn't know. I don't think you thought that, did you?
No, I mean he wasn't nice, but he wasn't mean. And when Pryor called him and said, "Hey, can I crash at your place? My wife kicked me out." He lied when he was playing the guitar. He said, "I'm working on my truck." But then he was like, "Sure, come on, you can crash here." And he offered to go over.
Yeah, I thought
for
that's
Christmas.
what he was.
Remember on Christmas Eve when his Russian bride didn't show up, he was like,
Right.
I can come over if you want. And there's more of this whiskey left in the bottle, and he was like, "Let me check with my wife," and probably that didn't happen.
So the other thing that Petey talked about was how like father, like son, and he was also so emotionally distant from his wife, and that Petey, like I know the dude, Finn Bennett went to the writer, whose name is
Issa
Lopez, I believe.
Yes.
Issa Lopez.
Yeah, it is. It's
Maybe
Issa
not
Lopez.
And said, I think after this event, this guy, Petey's life is ruined. He's going to become his father. And what she said to him? She said, "I don't think that's true at all. I think you're being melodramatic." I thought that was just a very ironic kind of thing.
We're making a drama.
A writer-director to say you're being melodramatic. Stay away from that. But the other thing that was striking was this whole ask the right question, ask the right question, ask the right question. And then in this moment of pure Danvers, personality of I don't know what to call it. She makes the rules. She's the one that's in charge. She's omnipotent. She said when he asked the right question, "Did you kill him?" She says at the end of this scene, which is all about asking the right question, she says, "You know what? You need to learn when to stop asking questions."
Yep,
and she slams out of the room. In other words, that's the right question, and I ain't going to answer it. And you were right. Navarro killed him.
We don't know that yet.
I think that's pretty clear.
Okay, so there's only one more episode, right? And
no, we know it's clear. Let me tell you why it's clear before you go into this. It's clear because it's the only way to explain how Danvers telling Navarro that it's over makes sense. If Danvers was the killer, that scene wouldn't make any sense. It had to be Navarro. She says it's over. Subtext, side stage, for your own good, which is the only thing I'm looking out for. You've got to drop it. He knows. He knows what? He knows you killed. That's why she sits down and she says, "I don't care." If it was about Danvers, that line wouldn't make much sense. So there you go. There's your proof. You can't rebut this.
Okay.
No, you just not.
Okay.
Oh, maybe I can't. You can't. Try to rebut it.
Seems very plausible. But you had plausible theories before.
You, on the other hand, have never had. Well, you've had one.
So we have. What do we all have to wrap up? Clark is out there somewhere. Probably in that cave. Hey, do you see that chick? And how did Annie die? And
where's Clark? What happened to the corpsicle?
Right, exactly. What caused the corpsicle?
What about these? What about these? What you would call hallucinations? Are they spiritual events?
We're not going to
or
get an answer to that. No.
Yes, we are.
I think
we're going to be able to deduce it. Well, I will
Yes.
be able to, as evidenced by my last deduction, which you could probably barely follow, but that's why you agree with it, because you don't understand it well enough to argue against me. But the thing is that we will know. I think your theory that it's about
Right.
the water is actually something that we might find out is true if they basically want to abandon the spiritual aspects of this, which
Right.
they might.
so. The writer director Isa Lopez is Mexican, and several of her people on her team are also Mexican, and she talks about how in Mexico the culture is much more comfortable with death and the dead and stuff like that. And they have obviously they have the Day of the Dead that they celebrate, but I think they do a lot more just like talking to the dead than your typical American does, and so she said she's sort of. And apparently the natives in Alaska do too. They're very.
So did you see the Inuit goddess I
Yes.
sent you? Did you notice anything about it in the kind of swirly kind of thing going on
Spirally?
with her? Kind of the swirly, spitting kind of thing? Because I saw in there, and I've seen in other depictions of her, much more of the curlicue. I wondered if there was an attachment to the circular spiral, which now we know at least one aspect of it. And I was surprised that it was not a spiritual aspect, that it was in fact a warning sign of ice caves.
Huh.
And the symbol makes sense that if you step here, you could go down, because if you look at that spiral, which is flat, and you turned it into 3D, you could make it look like a slinky.
A whirlpool spiral,
right?
Yeah.
With the thin part up on top, so that's where you break into the ice and spiral down into the ice cave. That's what I walked away with. But I was under the influence too. So
the director Isa Lopez talked about the spiral just abstractly and said that it sort of gives you a spiral is sort of a thing you feel like you can fall down, but that when you fall down you end up at the center, and it like centers you in like spiritually or something. So that was kind of whatever, man.
Well, it is not to say that the foundation for the warning rock of ice caves was not spiritually based. That was somehow connected with Inuit. And you know what happened? I don't know if you read up on this.
No, I have not.
Goddess that is in play here is that the story goes that she was the daughter of the king or some high near deity type thing, and they were in a boat and he was going to kill his daughter, and instead of killing her he ended up cutting off her fingers, and the fingers went into the seas and became the fishes and the porpoises and the whales, and then she went overboard and now she lives as the queen of all of the undersea.
The fingerless mermaid queen.
Shit. And, it's sort of, if you want to think about the most chilling depiction I've ever seen of a mermaid type thing is in the movie with Robert Pattinson and I'm blanking on his name, it's called The Lighthouse. It's a black and white film, came out a couple of years ago that
Yes.
I've talked about it.
I don't
before.
think I
don't
have.
know that you've ever
No.
seen it. Did you see it? Well, it's worth putting on your bucket list.
Oh God! I just looked for.
I don't want you to die.
For images of Lighthouse mermaid, and there's some creepy stuff in here, black and white. Yeah.
Well, in this movie, Robert Pattinson movie, which is all a lot of
With William Dafoe,
alcohol-induced
looks like?
hallucinatory shit that's going on.
Yes.
Willem Dafoe, yes, who was as good as I've ever seen him in anything. In fact, this movie, to me, is flawless.
All right.
It had, and I don't say that very much about movies. Moonstruck, I say that about that, blah blah blah, which I harangued you for 3 years,
2 years,
I think,
yeah.
2 years anyway, before you finally watch it. Don't make me do
until you're
that with
dead.
this one, and it's unsettling. It's unsettling, and it's not.
No,
it's not
good.
for your
I
kids.
like this. Just from these screenshots, it looks like the kind of unsettling movie that I like. Yeah.
And it's all in black and white. But anyway, here's my point: is that in there's a scene where he comes across with a mermaid, and the way she looks, and the noise she makes, the screech she makes, which is this cross between some deranged human and a fucking seagull. It is just beyond frightening. And he certainly is frightened.
Looks like there's a sex scene
so
with the
this-
mermaid.
Well, there's a touching. It's not.
Well,
I mean, it
looks
all
like
depends what you.
he has
how
his
you
pants
wanna
down.
define sex. He rubs her breast. He rubs her breast. That's what he does. It's we call
Yeah,
it,
because
pre-sex.
that's always the question with mermaids is, where do you put it? Yeah.
Yeah. What's down below? I mean, what is there? Is there a flap? Is there a place where the scales lift up? My
They
guess
lay
is
the
yes.
eggs, and then you have to. What was that word for fish sperm that you had? Milt. Yes. And then you
Milt.
milt on. Anyway, we got sidetracked. So, what are our predictions for the final episode? I think for sure, given the way True Detective as a series treats crime and punishment, I think Carter ends up with a bullet in his head because we don't. Clark, yeah.
Carter? You mean Clark?
Because we don't. This show is not about like criminal prosecution. When they find the bad
Apparently
guy,
not.
he doesn't.
Her getting heroin for him shows a degree of professional
Right.
depravity.
No, but like the first
That,
the first
is-
season,
is-
ended with them killing the bad guy, and then the rest of
Yeah.
much of the season was trying to cover that up. So we're sort
Right.
of hearing echoes of that here with the murder that you claim.
Well, I believe that Annie discovered what Petey discovered is that the company that is supposed to be checking the quality of the water is actually owned and paid for by the
Right.
mining company. That she knew that, and that Clark, who did have a relationship with her, ended up murdering her over that. And he, in fact, is in the ice
Right.
caves. He will be there when they get there. And I do believe that they will
Yep.
kill him. And I believe that when they kill him, all of the dead people that have been seen and hallucinated are going to be involved.
Are they going to be like released? Like now we don't have to be
Navarro
ghosts
will
anymore?
see them. Navarro will see them leave.
We'll
Navarro
see them
will see them leave.
all there,
They're
standing
all
there,
driven.
and saying,
They're all
thank you, and then they
driven.
walk off and fade away.
No, nothing that cheesy. It's going to be somehow they're involved in the scene where they're freed.
Okay.
They're freed. And what they all have in common, is that they are ghosts of injustice. They are ghosts of injustice. And Wheeler, the murderer who was murdered, truly murdered, he was crazy because he drank the water. It all goes to the water. That's why I think that the other thing, which is how is Skyland involved? We already know that. That mystery was solved when the woman I don't even know the name of her character, who runs Sky Mine, is found to be
McKittrick.
Of course, the person who paid Hank to get rid of the body. Why is she involved? Because that's why they killed Annie.
She's the evil mastermind behind
They killed
everything.
Annie.
But she's not going to get a bullet. So,
yes.
although maybe she shows up there at the mine and
I don't think she's got it in her to do that. I think that may be a wandering thread.
So, Danvers' daughter, the only perfect relationship that you said was her daughter and her daughter's girlfriend suffered in this episode, where she just didn't come to defend her. I don't know. I don't think that's going anywhere.
Remind me of that.
Leia
when she got arrested for the fight.
Went to the protest, and she got hit by a police officer, and she saw her girlfriend in the crowd and was like, and reached out for help, and the girlfriend was like, I'm not getting into that. And she walked away. And then later, when she was in jail, she said, fuck her or whatever. Like, she was displeased. I don't know. I don't think her character's going anywhere further. I don't know. Yeah.
Her daughter?
I don't know that there's going to be a redemption story there, or...
No, there will be a reconciliation as a result of putting this thing with Annie to rest. It will be resolved. They're not going to do what the first episode,
no,
the first season did.
God, I hope not.
And fuck up the ending.
And then we got.
That was. I don't know that wasn't the most disappointing bit of television cinema that I've ever
because it was such a
experienced.
high, and then it failed at the end. I saw this chart the other day that was based on ratings. It was like a ranking of the worst final episodes of series. How disappointing? No, I don't recall, but I'll have to Google and find that chart, and I'll send it to you, and I'll put it in the show notes. But things where they just, they do the trick where, turns out it was all a dream or whatever, which is always right.
Yeah, come on, it's right.
And then the other character we have to wrap up is Kavik. Navarro's.
That's another reconciliation. We're not going to see that completely finalized, but I predict a touching scene.
Because he's the best, most likable character, I think.
I don't know. Petey's pretty likable.
Petey's pretty likable, yeah.
So I was blown away by the quality of the song that Hank sang, and John Hawkins obviously has a talent that I was not aware of.
Yeah, he was a musician for a while.
So that was good. That was.
Did you remember when I asked you if you recognized the opening theme?
Oh yes, I did, and in fact, I told you. I may have already told you this, but one of the benefits of watching the script as it is being filmed, so I can understand the words because I can't hear
Subtitles.
well enough to catch all the words, is that it tells you the name of the song, the artist, and gives
That's
you all
cheating.
the words to the song. So I don't think it's cheating because it's nothing I did deliberate. It just is a fact. I love the opening. It's the only series, although I did this with Succession. I watch the opening of Succession a lot, even episode after episode, where if you're binging, you speed through that. But I've never sped through this. I love
that was on. It might have been the actual title of the album too, of Billie Eilish's debut album. That.
What's the name of the song?
Where do you know? It's like where do you go when you fall asleep?
That ain't the name of the song.
Billie Eilish, where do you go? It's when we fall asleep.
Where do you
we
go?
Is
When we fall asleep, where do we go?
it is
That's a long time.
and it was on her
I
first
love
album. It wasn't the da-da-da.
Titular song.
No, I don't see the actual name of the album. I think it might have. Yeah, that is the name of the album. But it's so dark. I mean, her music is very dark. But when that album came out in 2019, I see. That's the one that won her like 4 Grammys or whatever.
She came out with a Grammy
Did she this year?
this year too, I think. No, she was nominated. She didn't win it. Miley Cyrus won it instead of her. Miley Cyrus's performance was outrageous, just outrageous.
Yeah.
What
yeah,
a
she is.
performer! My God. Well, I'm not happy that it's only 6 episodes. All the other ones were 8, and she may have learned something from that. But the trouble with the first season wasn't that it was 8; it was that it wasn't 10.
Well,
They forced if they had 2 more episodes, they would have ended it right.
I guess I don't know. It
They didn't know where to go. The storyteller
yeah
didn't
right
know
exactly.
where to go
It felt like they were sort of meandering and
oh well, what do we do? Well, I know. How about I don't know, man. I'm out of steam.
that's what it felt like. It felt like I think it could have been 6 and wrapped it up better or something. I don't know, but it.
No. I don't believe that to be the case. There isn't one of those episodes that I would want to get rid of, but I sure would have enjoyed to see more of it, just the same as this one.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It's
So apparently the last song of the episode was also of importance, or at least equally important as what I would believe that the Billie Eilish song in the opening of it is absolutely perfectly placed for this series. I just love it. The dark, suicidal, because this is a dark motherfucking True Detective. This is fucking dark. Nobody's happy. Everybody's miserable. People are getting killed. There's blood everywhere. It's just
it is quite dark. Let me see if I can. Nothing breaks like my heart. There was the end credits is Save Tonight by Eagle Eye Cherry, but that's not what you're talking about. Yeah. So, Die For You. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the final. We'll see. I'm worried.
The ultimate.
I'm worried
the
we're
ultimate.
going to be disappointed, but I'm optimistic that they can stick the landing. I don't know.
I hope you're not disappointed. If you're not, you're a little sensitive. You tend to be a little easier to disappoint with these things.
Well, I
We'll
just
see.
get my hopes up.
We'll see. So far, you're energetic. So I got to blow, I'm doing a gig on Wednesday the 28th at my favorite pub where they serve draft Smittix.
Yes.
As a reminder that you wanted me to mention that. And piano player, and I sent him the song. I'm going to sing the verse of it as we part, but there seemed to me something about Schmidt's draft that you
Yeah, so I was out with some friends the other day, and I ordered a draft beer, and they all ordered bottles of beer from the bar. And it got me thinking, which is better? But why?
Draft. Why? Because
Fresher
it's fresh.
than what was in the bottle and has been sealed?
Absolutely. Fresher. And more original. You can get the flavors you want out of a draft beer. When you stick it in a fucking bottle, you're going to lose some of that. And the best example of that is Bell's Amber, which on tap is excellent. In a bottle, smells and tastes like skunk.
Maybe they don't clean their bottles very well.
No. It's the process, man. It's sort of like, which is better? Fresh cheese or processed cheese? Huh?
Okay, but
Seasoned, aged meat.
it's not processed.
Well, no,
You know,
it's not.
but
It's backwards.
they're just putting it in a bottle as opposed to putting it in a keg.
Or in a can, in a bottle or a can. Frankly, I think draft beer that's canned at the brewery tastes much better than that same beer bottle that you could buy. And it may be that I've never been to a brewery where they bottle their own beer on site, but when I go to breweries in several places, I say, I want some of that to go, that draft beer to go, that amber beer to go, and they say, do you want a grueler? And they have a glass container that you can put it in, 3 different sizes, right? With a cork top on it, a screw top, or cork top, like there's a certain beer, grueler beer actually, is a top that you fling down the metal clamp to tighten it down. Or a can, you'd order the can every time.
Huh.
You order the can every time because it's fresher. It's fresher. And of course, depending on the size of the bottle, and this is true with can or bottle, if you don't drink all of it, the can you're fucked because it's open. The bottle, if you don't drink all of it, the next time you drink it, it won't taste so good. It's going to taste like old bottled beer.
Okay.
So,
thank
other
you.
questions?
That seems like a plausible explanation. I'm done with that. So,
I'll mow your lawn, clean the leaves out your drain. I'll mend your roof to keep out the rain. I'll take the work that God provides. I'm a jack of all trades. Honey will be all right. I'll hammer the nails and I'll set the stone. I'll harvest your crops when they're ripe and grown. I'd pull that engine apart and patch her up till she's running right. I'm a jack of all trade. will be all right. I'm a jack of all trades. Honey will be all right. There's more. It's lovely. It's on his, I believe it's a Thunderball album, which is dynamite. Dynamite. This tune starts out with piano, ends up with full orchestra. It's just crazy. So, peace out. Do your homework, bitch.
Okay, that's it for episode number 207. You can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/207, where there are some links to some of the TV shows and articles and stuff we talked about. You can help support the show at patreon.com/happyhour, where if you give it the Gin Martinis level, you can see a video version of this where, Dennis is silly often. See you next week.